Hi everyone, welcome to Ace Your Way Through Final Season Workshop. We hope that you're all staying safe and well. And before we kick off with a round of introductions, when you just trickled in, feel free to add your pronouns to your name. And just a reminder to please stay on mute if you aren't talking. So we are the LFS ACE Team's Workshop Committee. My name is Rosemary, and I'm a third-year nutritional sciences student. As final exams are coming up, I understand what you're all feeling. And as a student too, I'm really excited to share personal experiences I've learned along the way. And I hope this workshop will set you up for success on your final exams.
Hi everyone, I'm Clarice. Same as Rosemary, I'm a part of the LFS ACE Team Workshop Committee. I'm a third-year food nutrition and health student. Like many of you joining us today, I'm also pretty stressed about preparing my finals. But in the meantime, I try out different ways to de-stress just to make sure that I'm not overwhelmed. I've also learned some useful study tips along the way that I'm excited to share with you today. Hopefully, through today's workshop, we can all learn some ways to better cope with our stress, manage our time well, and better prepare our exams.
Also joining us on this call are our team leads, Val and Tiff, and we also have guest speakers, Colleen and Connie from the Wellness Center, who are also students too. Also, Val is a TA for LFS 150. UBC's Point Grey campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. We would also like to acknowledge that you are joining us today from many places near and far and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. Just a reminder for Zoom, we have the participants tab. So there's the raise hand function, which you can use throughout the workshop. And on the same bar, there's also the mute button and also the chat function. From the RSVP survey that you all filled out, these were the common questions that were coming up, which we'll be going over in this workshop. So how to manage exam stress and anxiety, how to make a study schedule that works, stress eating, how to use the limited time to study in a productive manner, and resources to review bio and chem. So we have some course specific tips as well. Passing it back to you. Oh, sorry. Our workshop agenda today is, so we'll have our stress management session led by the Peer Health Educators, a fun Kahoot trivia on time management, a DIY personalized study plan, and exam prep tips. We'll also have the exit survey at the very end, and the rest of the time will be for the open study space. And now passing it to you, Cloris.
Thank you, Rosemary. So as the finals are coming to us in just 2 weeks, it is quite common for us to experience a significantly higher level of stress than before. Sometimes I think simply thinking about, oh, my finals were 50% of my final GPA is enough to stress me out. However, as you already know, high level of stress is not good for us as it can negatively impact our health, happiness, and grades. So it is important for us to take the time to practice ways to relieve our stress. So today we have invited two guest speakers, Connie and Colin, joining us from the UBC Wellness Center to tell us how we can better cope with our stress.
Hello, everyone. So I'll just be sharing my screen. So give me 1 second. And then can we all see my screen? If you can, feel free to react or just give me a thumbs up. Perfect. All right. So hello, everyone. Welcome to your workshop with the LFS ACE workshop team. I'm Connie. I'm a fourth-year psychology major minoring in law and society, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am also joined today by Colleen, and I'll let her introduce herself to all of you as well.
Hi guys, my name is Colleen. I'm also a fourth year a psychology student. I'm minoring in linguistics, and I'm zooming in from Burnaby today. My pronouns are she, her, hers as well, and I'm very excited to be here with you guys.
So I'm also zooming in from Richmond, so forgot to mention that as well. But Colleen and I are just peer health educators. So that means we are students who are trained to share health and wellness information on a variety of topics, like we are doing today on managing stress. And we hope to help UBC students like yourselves find your ways to approaching and improving your wellness. So today we'll just be guiding you through a skill building activity on managing stress. Normally takes around like 20 minutes or so, but it could go over that. And yeah, so before we do begin, I'd also like to recognize that all of you are different as well. And that does mean that you all have different ways in approaching your wellness and managing your well-being. So feel free to just listen in if you'd like. You can take notes if you wish, or we do encourage you as well to join in during our discussion portion of our activity. So that way we can get more suggestions and thoughts from all of you. So today we'll just be exploring stress, why it's okay to be stressed, and how we can make stress our friend. But before we get into our activity, I just have a nice little check-in question for all of you. So how stressed have you all been feeling lately? So feel free to annotate on the slide. A reminder on how to do that is you're just going to click the view options bar at the top, and then a drop-down menu will appear, and then click annotate, and feel free to stamp where you are on this spectrum here, or you can also chime in the chat if you'd like with the number or range that you're feeling today. And I see we have a lot of stamps here coming up, a lot of varying responses. I myself am probably around a 7 to 8 around my stress levels, just because final season is coming up. And with that, I know a lot of studying will need to begin. And I still have a few small final assignments here and there to get done before I can really get into the studying mode for finals. And then I see someone here is not feeling too stressed. So whoever you may be, good for you, since maybe you're just managing your stress really well, or maybe you just really are not feeling stressed and don't have too much going on, which is great as well. So thank you all for your stamps and annotations here. I'm just going to clear my slide. And we can see that everyone is definitely feeling lots of different varying levels of stress right now. And then I'm just going to pass it over to Colleen to get us into our first question for you.
Okay, thanks Connie for that little check-in. And whoever that person is with no stress, please private message me your techniques. I would love to incorporate that into my own routine. All right, so being university students, we are busy and most of us have a lot on the go at once. Student life can be very stressful, as I'm sure you guys all know, and stress can impact people in different ways. So we wanted to ask you guys this question: is stress bad for you? You can think about it for a second, how it affects you, and you can feel free to put your answers in the chat or annotate directly on the slide. Someone's written very beautifully, yes. All right. And Torin has written in the chat that chronic stress is nasty. Oh, nasty, that's a good word. Some can be a good motivator. Depends on how I manage it, from Tiffany. Yes. So these are all contributing to a very good point, is that I think most of you know if it's persistent and continuous, stress is bad, but in small amounts, the answer is most of the time no. Stress is not bad for you. And often when we experience stress, it is our body preparing us to overcome a challenge. As university students, it's important to remember that you guys are here to learn and to grow, and that comes with its own challenges. And if you experience that stress is a response and take it as an opportunity to adapt, you can make stress work for you and help support your growth and your resilience. So if stress is ongoing and is making us feel unwell over time, it can be a good idea to reach out for help. Now, we're going to come back to that concept in just a moment, but to further explore how we can learn more about using stress to our advantage, we're just going to watch a quick little video for you guys. And Connie,
Yes, I will be just momentarily stop screen sharing just to transition over to our video.
Nikita says in the chat that I agree. Sometimes it makes me procrastinate more by watching Netflix to calm myself down. I am too a victim of that, but sometimes I feel like I stress watch, so I watch Netflix to procrastinate, but I'm also super guilty at the same time.
Alrighty, can everyone see my screen again? Just give me a nice thumbs up if you can. Perfect. So I will just begin the video. And can we all hear the sound as well? Just give me a nice thumbs up again. Perfect.
A test, a deadline at work, a difficult conversation, a traffic jam. Your heart pounds, you breathe faster, your muscles tense, you sweat. It's all, well, very stressful. Plus, over time, all of this unpleasantness can raise your blood pressure, clog your arteries, and make you prone to anxiety, depression, and even addiction. Is the answer to avoid stress? As if that were possible. Actually, one answer is to take on more of it. Our body's response to stress is to fight or flee. It evolved to help us react quickly to get ourselves out of a jam. When danger strikes, the amygdala, the brain's fear sensor, alerts the hypothalamus that something is wrong. This almond-sized brain center makes a long-distance call to the adrenal glands. These sit just above your kidneys and pump epinephrine into the blood. You become focused. Your reflexes improve. Your senses sharpen. To keep the tension high, the hypothalamus acts again. This time, it tells the pituitary glands to nudge the adrenal glands to spew out cortisol. This stress hormone pushes glucose out of your tissues and into the blood, giving your body extra energy. Modern stressors are usually not life-threatening, so this whole cascade of events can be overkill, causing people to fret when there really isn't much to worry about. But ironically, you need stress to fight stress. Taking on reasonable challenges, like speaking in front of a small group or standing up to a friend who is bothering you, conditions your brain to handle stressful situations. The brain's chief executive, the prefrontal cortex, gains power. So the next time a deadline looms or the traffic backs up, it shuts up the amygdala, stifling the alarm. You can now tolerate that stress. You are resilient. For Scientific American's Instant Egghead, I'm Ingrid Wickelgren.
Alrighty, so that was our little video there. We hope you all enjoyed our nice video on stress we had, and maybe you learned a new thing or two about stress. And as the video suggested, you do need to take on reasonable challenges to help condition your brain in responding to stressors as a way to become more resilient. The stress response, as we saw in the video, is a response that our body uses to prepare us for a challenge. And being in university, stress is a completely normal part of our experience that we're all tackling because we not only have academics, but maybe some of you have work or are involved with extracurriculars on the side as well. As university students, I think it's important to remember that all of us are here to learn and grow from our experiences. And with that is going to come with challenges along the way that we're going to encounter. If you're able to reframe the stress response as an opportunity for you to adapt, you can make the stress work for you by developing the skills to learn how to cope, ultimately supporting your future growth and resilience. So now that we're able to appreciate that stress can be used to our advantage, let's discuss how we can get through some of our stressful times together. How one person is going to manage their stress is completely personal, and different coping strategies are going to work for different people. So being able to identify strategies that may work well for you can be a good starting point and could also be helpful the next time you find yourself in a stressful situation and are trying to navigate how to cope and deal with it. So let's work through a scenario together that I will be sharing. So Hudson here has 2 upcoming paper deadlines and a final next week. It's also their good friend's birthday celebration this weekend, and they're feeling stressed about their time management and getting enough studying in. So the first question that I have for all of you is just how might Hudson recognize they're feeling stressed? So feel free to type in the chat your thoughts or suggestions. You can feel free to annotate with text on the slide if you'd like, or if you're comfortable enough, you can also just unmute yourself and share your thoughts. For myself personally, an indicator of when I feel stressed often in terms, I guess, is usually feeling overwhelmed with the work that I need to do or deadlines that might be coming up. So normally that's, I guess, both an emotional indicator as to when I am able to recognize it. I also see here we have feeling anxious or restlessness. So yes, when we do have increased stress levels, you can become more anxious, restlessness, maybe even irritable because of all the increased stress in your life. Also, by not knowing where to start, that's also another great suggestion as well, or thought. So sometimes when we are faced with a lot of stress, that can sometimes cloud our thoughts or maybe our judgments, and it can be a little more difficult to figure out when to get organized and not know what to tackle first or try to overcome first. You could also feel maybe you're not getting enough sleep as well. So maybe you're staying up late at night to do work and you're not getting enough sleep for you. Or maybe some people might cope with stress in terms of maybe sleeping more. So maybe feeling more tired or fatigued from all the work they're doing. And then I also see not eating regularly. So that's also another way. So when you are feeling stressed, maybe you're skipping meals as a result of being too focused, or maybe always doing your work, or maybe just as feeling too overwhelmed by all these stress indicators and just not engaging in ways to take care of your body physically. So that's a great way to start off our conversation. I will just be clearing the annotations on this slide. So thank you to everyone who participated. And then the next question that I have for all of you is what can Hudson do to cope and get through this stressful time? So think about maybe ways that you all have been recently coping and dealing with your stress, any strategies that you would love to share with the rest of the group. In terms of, I guess, time management and organization, something that I tend to like to do is to go through what I need to do throughout the week and make short set daily goals for myself. So I see Nikita saying create a to-do list. So once again, connecting back to the idea of getting organized, making a plan for yourself, setting daily goals, so that way you can chunk your work out throughout the week rather than being faced with all these tasks and challenges that you have to overcome and face. And it's definitely a lot more stressful to tackle everything at once compared to if you're able to get through things bit by bit every day. I also see, let's see, schedule, making a list. So yes, as I was talking about, those are great ways to get organized and can be also a great starting point to start managing your stress. Turn to friends or family for social support, which is also another great suggestion as well, and is very important, I think, especially right now with virtual learning and with the restrictions becoming a little more serious again, at least here in Vancouver. Turning to friends and family for support is definitely important. Making sure that you're still reaching out if you need help. And sometimes it's nice to just talk to a friend or a family and just let it all out, let all your stressors out. And I'm sure a lot of our friends and family are also finding themselves in stressful situations. So it's nice to be able to relate with another person as well right now. I see taking breaks is another very important thing. When you are studying, it's not, at least in terms of research, studying in longer periods sometimes can be detrimental to your memory, doesn't help you with focus. So it is good to take breaks. So for example, like the Pomodoro technique. I see sleeping at regular times, building a sleep schedule, that's also super important as well. So making sure that you are getting a proper sleep routine in there, because if you are feeling tired or fatigued, that's going to impede how you are, I guess, going about your day, your focus. Maybe you aren't able to work as productively as you would be able to, or you might just feel groggy throughout the day as well if you don't have a proper sleep schedule. I see going for a walk, exercise, meditation. These are all great ways that tie into self-care and thinking of yourself and still engaging in those strategies. So these are all these are all stressful times right now, and a lot of people sometimes can forget to think about themselves with all the work and deadlines that we have. So it is important to be able to engage in self-care. So personally, I like to paint if I have free time as a nice way to just de-stress, but everyone has different things they can do. And then I also see acknowledge accomplishments, not just outstanding tasks. I think that's a great, whoever said that, that's a great way to reframe that idea as well. Not to think about the tasks that we have on hand, but also to acknowledge what you're able to get done throughout the day, especially since I think we all have our own definitions of what we think is being productive right now. And I think with virtual learning, some of us might not feel as productive as we used to be. So that's a great way to just reframe those thoughts as well. Also taking care of healthy eating habits is also another great way that I don't see mentioned here. So in terms of like stress eating, if one is engaging in that too frequently, it can become an unhealthy behavior. And sometimes when I'm stressed, like I turn to food because I love food, and I think it's a coping mechanism for some of us in terms of how we deal with our stress. And sometimes it can make us feel better. But sometimes when I'm studying, I try not to have tempting snacks within my own reach. So that way I don't just end up reaching for them if I'm feeling stressed as a way to cope with it. This is also why maintaining healthy eating habits can be important, making sure that you're not skipping meals once again. And maybe think about when we are stress eating to give yourself some time to reflect and think about, are you stress eating or eating in general because you're feeling hungry and trying to satisfy your hunger, or are you engaging in it just to for another reason, like feeling stressed as well? So I think that is all the suggestions that we have. So thank you everyone for your engagement and participation once again. We have some great suggestions here from all of you. And as we can see from everyone's various suggestions, there really is no one right answer that Hudson can find success, but it is possible. And when we're experiencing the stress response, we can think about different ways that we're able to problem solve. Maybe you can try something new or seek support from friends and family, like someone suggested here already. So when stressors do come up, reframing stress can make you feel more able to find solutions that'll motivate you and also keep you feeling at your best and maybe more motivated when you are experiencing stress. So I'd like all of you to think about a few options you think might be able to work for you in terms of coping strategies. Maybe you saw something here that a peer suggested that you really like and would like to engage in next time. So yeah, think about what could work well for you if you were to find yourself in a similar situation like Hudson. So I will just clear these annotations super quickly before we move on to our next slide with Colleen.
Okay, thanks Connie for working us through that scenario with Hudson to help us conceptualize stress and how to overcome it with coping strategies. And thank you to everyone who participated as well and felt comfortable to share. So just bringing everything together, what can we do when we're feeling stressed? So thinking about how to help others and ourselves who are experiencing this stress response, there are 3 important steps to remember when you want to make stress work for you. Number 1 is reframing the stress response as a signal to adapt, and that it's your body's way of preparing you for a challenge. So this was illustrated by that video that we watched on the activation of the sympathetic nervous system that some people have watched previously before, and the physiological changes that happens to our bodies. So when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, we can remember that it's our body sending us a message that something important is about to happen or is going to happen, or it's happening right now. And think of that as your body setting up like an alarm system. And that feeling the stress response and the physiological changes isn't necessarily a bad thing. The second thing you can do is apply or model effective coping skills, and this can be done during, before, or after a stressful experiences. So applying coping skills, these are the ones that you guys mentioned previously when we were talking about Hudson. So it included maybe reaching out to a friend to talk, as you guys mentioned, going for a walk, or taking a nap to recharge, among many others. So we can apply coping skills by problem solving, creating a plan of action and what to do next and the steps that come after it. So you guys mentioned this, I believe, by suggesting making a to-do list or creating a schedule. And this is a great way to organize your tasks, maybe in little chunks, to get motivated and to figure out the steps that you have to do that follows. And we also touched on the topic of staying motivated. So a great way to create a plan for this is setting up a study schedule with your friends that you guys can study together virtually online. And this way you can keep each other accountable when you don't show up for study sessions, or if you find yourself going on the internet instead of studying during these sessions, your friend can check up on you and remind you to focus on your task. And another thing that we can do to apply coping skills are using social support. So reaching out to friends and family. And sometimes that social connection is really important in making us feel better about the stress response. For me, I use it sometimes to vent. Sometimes you need to vent what you have to do this week or the stressors that are going on in your life to your friends and family. And externalizing that stress can sometimes really make you feel better about it, since you're not just holding it in the whole time. And also when I connect with my friends or classmates about my workload, it makes me feel better because that they're also facing the same workload as me and they're also stressed. I know that's not necessarily a good thing, but it makes me feel better that I'm not suffering alone and that my friends are here with me. So that's another way that you can use social support to cope with the stress response. And another thing that you can try is practicing healthy habits for sleep, eating, and physical activity. So I believe someone mentioned exercise and going for a walk. And these are great ways to practice those basics and take care of yourself and just go for a break when you need to. And in terms of stress eating, just to add on to what Connie mentioned, so usually when we're stress eating, we tend to gravitate towards less healthy foods, for me, for sure, because they're more convenient and they're right there on the pantry and they're just so good and they're right there. The chips are so good. But to combat this, you can start by preparing small snacks ahead of time. You can cut up like fruits or vegetables so that when you want to snack on something, those ones are ready to go for you just yet. I don't recommend just throwing away all your junk food like all at the same time. First of all, it's wasteful. Second of all, you can just finish eating it. Just don't buy it again, or maybe buy it last time. Yeah, but don't throw it away. That's very wasteful. So again, maybe taking some time for self-care, taking breaks. And I believe someone mentioned acknowledging accomplishments and not just outstanding tasks. And I think that's a great way to really reframe stress as a stress response and not like an overwhelming thing. Yeah, and that may be another good way to, when you make a list, when you cross off a task, it feels really accomplishment and satisfying to cross off a task. And so that way that you know what you had to get done and you feel proud of what you did for that day. So lastly, another thing that you can do by applying the stress response is you can try stress reduction techniques. So such as you guys mentioned, you can try box breathing or other grounding exercises like visualization when you're overwhelmed by the stress response. So some of these you can access freely online, such as YouTube videos or through apps like Calm and Headspace that have pre-made visually guided mindfulness sessions for you to try when you need to de-stress. So I personally found these most helpful when I'm trying to sleep at night. They really calm me down and I usually fall asleep way before the session is over. That's very good, encouraging news. So for all of these that we just mentioned, I know we threw a lot of things at you guys. We encourage you to really think about a few options that you feel would work for you when you're in a similar situation like Hudson, or maybe you're in a situation like that right now. And hopefully you found new ideas you'd like to try next time as well. There was a lot of great suggestions today, and we really appreciate you guys participating in our session. And once again, thank you to everyone who felt comfortable to share. Yeah, so hopefully you found some things helpful, especially as we go into full final season soon. Can you believe school is ending next week? Oh my God. So I'm now just going to share a few things with you guys before we finish up today's Ways to Wellness moment. I believe we provided Chloris with a coping strategies worksheet that you guys can use when you're feeling stressed and need to make a plan and overcome the challenge. So this is for you guys to use when you need it and also include some resources that are accessible to you guys as a UBC student, such as counseling services, student assistant program, and Here to Talk. And all of our resources are also available anytime on the Wellness Center online Canvas course. So this is a space for students to access tips and health information for your well-being, and also hear from the experiences of your peers. So peer health educators such as Connie and I have written peer stories on there, touching on topics in health and wellness. And there are other peer stories by our fellow peer health educators that are very informational and educational as well. Let me pull out. So there are stories on time management by Amarpreet and Selena, stories about healthy eating by Janicia. There's also a story for What Calms Me Down by Lindsay. There's a story for building new routines, and there's one for eating in times of stress. So I encourage you guys to check those out since they're made from as a student from our perspective and also as a peer health educator. So along with that, there are also a variety of modules on there on other wellness topics, such as stress and self-care and time management that you can check out for your convenience. And I'm going to link the enrollment page for that as well. And lastly, if you belong to a club, class, or other UBC organization and would like to book a future Ways to Wellness moment like this one, you can visit our booking page. So I'll link that as well, and along with the YouTube video that we showed you guys today. So thank you guys for having us today, and thank you to the LFS team, Cloris and you guys. It's been a pleasure, and I'll let Connie say goodbye as well.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening to Colleen and I talk about how you can manage your stress. We hope you all maybe learned something new about how you can manage and cope with your stress, or maybe this was just a nice little refresher or reminder about ways that you are able to do so. Colleen and I are so grateful to have seen so much active engagement and participation during our discussion portions of our activity, and sharing all of your thoughtful suggestions about how stress affects you or ways that you like to cope with it. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed our workshop on stress today. If you have any questions, you can pop some in the chat for Colleen and I that we can answer. But if not, we can just pass it back. I will pass it back to Cloris to just finish up, and I will stop sharing my screen as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Connie and Colleen, for this interactive session on the stress management. So feel free to check out the links that Connie and Colleen have sent in the chat. So now we have learned about how to manage our stress, but what if you've become stressed out during the exam? Well, sometimes feeling overwhelmed during the exam is often because we're focusing on the early sections of the exam and find out that, oh, we're running out of the time to finish the entire exam. So planning your time well can really help you to reduce that anxiety. One tip that I have found really helpful for me is to estimate how long each question should take and make a timesheet besides you with intervals of the time. So for example, when I was taking some open book exams, before I start, I often note down the total timelines allowed on a piece of scrap paper, or you have to make sure that scrap paper is allowed. So I would put down the total time allowed and then make a estimate about the time I need to spend on each section. So for example, for the multiple choice, I will give myself 1 to 2 minutes. And for the long answer questions, depending on the length, I will roughly give 5 to 8 minutes. So you could have a rough estimate about how long you will spend. However, if your exam does not allow you to backtrack, it is still a helpful way for you to practice and keep track of your progress as you go. So managing our time well before the exam can really help us to feel less anxious. But the question really is how we can better manage our time schedule as we have many things going on at the same time. Well, as an easy and fun way to answer this question, let's play a Kahoot trivia together to de-stress and test your knowledge about time management. So please, for those of you who are not very familiar about the Kahoot, please pull out your electronic device, either your phone or your tablet. Rosemary has sent the link into the chat, so feel free to click into that. And yes, please enter the game pin showing at the top and choose a nickname to join. Nice, I can see many people rolling in.
Okay, so I think we've got everyone on this call. Is that right, Cloris?
Yes, please give us a thumb up when you have already rolled in. I can see many thumbs up.
Great. We'll start now. Okay, so we see that the majority of people on this call are in first year, and I want to applaud all the first years in this call. This shows that you're all thinking ahead and using this opportunity to take ownership of this learning. And to everyone else on this call, thank you also for joining as well. Okay, so most people on this call are visual learners, but we've also got people who study in groups and who are also independent learners, and also people who are more of who learn by sound, which is, it's great to be aware of our own learning styles, and we all like have our own. Same. I agree with most people on this call. I also take breaks every 20 to 30 minutes. Oh, there's some people texting or with your friends and complaining. And some people do all of the above. Okay, that's great. So most people on this call got the correct answer. So this was mentioned in Connie and Colleen's presentation, the Pomodoro technique. Don't worry if you didn't get this question correct. We'll just be covering the Pomodoro technique right now. Oh, great. LH, you are winning right now. So yes, so the Pomodoro technique, the purpose of this technique is to focus with a specific amount of time allotted. So doing one Pomodoro means you set time for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break. And then you keep repeating until you take a long break. So one of the options to this question is called the Eisenhower Matrix. For me, researching for this time management workshop, it was actually one of my first times hearing about it. So I'm actually going to be using this more now after this workshop planning for finals. So this is a tool to help prioritize your task or like accomplishments. So there are quadrants. So there's the important and urgent. So this helps you to prioritize what you should do at a certain moment and what you could put off for later so that you don't feel as overwhelmed with whatever you have to do throughout the day. Okay, so most people know what SMART goals are, which is awesome. Again, if you didn't get it, don't worry. I'm going to be explaining what SMART goals are. And LH is at the top of the leaderboard. Nikita, Tim, Ella, and Valerie are also on the leaderboard as well. So this was a screenshot from the UBC Learning Commons, which is a great resource to check out. So SMART goals means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So an example I'm going to give is for math, I'm going to review 10 challenging web work questions about the chain rule in 1 hour. So specific, reviewing web work questions about the chain rule, measurable, 10 questions, attainable, it gives me about 6 minutes per question. It's realistic. So I said, this is what I found challenging. So it's important for me to review, and also time bound. So I gave myself an hour to complete it. Oh yes, the chain rule. A lot of people are reacting to that right now. Okay, that's great. So mostly we got the correct answer. There's a couple here that, you know, had each of the options, and don't worry, again, I'm going to be explaining what pseudo work is, and it's just more of like as a fact. Okay, oh wow, Nikita is on fire right now. Yes, so this was another screenshot from the UBC Learning Commons. Pseudo work is more leisurely, distracted, time consuming. Deep work is intensive, focused, and shorter. So just being being knowledgeable of what kind of work we're doing, what we should try to focus on more.
Well, I can see most of you got it right. So multitasking is actually not good for us to work productively. Well, I can also see the comments. Thank you for loving the memes. So as we're having the online classes right now, it is so easy for us to get distracted. How many of you have answered any emails or texting to your friends while you're having the online lectures? Well, it happened to me at first while I was taking the online classes, but later on I realized I spent too much time going back to the recording, and that was really a waste of the time. So one good way I would try to do now is to mute my phone and keep it out of my sight so I can stay more focused during the class. So try to focus on one thing while you're studying. Oh, wow. Good job, Nikita. Nice. So as the old saying goes, practice and more practice really can make us perfect. So well, as a student, we tend to do the rest of the things such as memorizing facts, reading the textbook, and rewriting all our lecture notes before we actually do the practices. However, to be realistic, we might not have the time to go over everything before the exam. So maybe you can try to adjust your strategy and do some practice at first. I know it can be scary at first to do a practice test when you are feeling unsure about most of the questions, but this is the active learning and it can help you to save your time in the long run. Okay, Tim is coming up. Well, this is a tricky question, but now you got it right. So prioritize for the tasks that are due first and assignments that was the most marked. These are easy things that we should prioritize them in our schedules. But for the hardest tasks, well, it is often easy for us to delay the hardest tasks, such as your English essay, especially if you find out the deadline is often 2 to 3 weeks away. But you should try to have a detailed plan when you first have this harder task and breaking down the task into small things and set your personal deadlines. That can really help you so you won't be stressed out to finish pages and pages of essay on the day that it is due. Nice. So 11 of you got it right. So as independent learners, these are all very good strategies for you to study productively. Well, I understand that for us, since we're all taking online classes, the Zoom University can force us to be independent learners. But it is not. But I do remember that when I was taking my first year classes, especially for Chem 121, which is the Chem 120 now. I prepared the final exams with my friends in the class. By studying together, we're holding each other accountable and asking each other questions that I may not expect when I study alone. So even though we're now studying at home, it is still a good way for us to maybe have a Zoom group study sessions together with your peers. You can practice the Pomodoro technique that Rosemary mentioned earlier. So for example, you can stay on mute and study straight for 25 minutes and have a casual conversations after this 25 minutes. So it can really help you to be motivated when you study. Good
So
job.
the ladies first place, Valerie, and the first place goes to Nikita. Great job, Nikita. Oh, we've also got some runners up, Mimi and LH. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and we hope that you enjoyed that Kahoot activity. And now at this point of the workshop, I'm going to be showing you how to make an hour-by-hour schedule. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this on full screen. Okay, can everyone see that well? Feel free to put a thumbs up. Okay, great. Okay, so the reason why we're doing this hour-by-hour schedule is based on my personal experience. Time management has been a challenge for me for a long time. To be honest, every year I continue to build on this skill. When university hit in my first year, things were getting overwhelming, and so I reached out to advisors and peer leaders. Something that was common in the advice was to create an hour-by-hour schedule. So I hope to share this tool with you to reach your goals and to overcome this challenge as a first step for improving time management skills. So this is a blank document I am using this week as an example. Feel free to work along with me using the blank document that was provided in this email for this workshop. You can also use Google Calendar or Agenda. There's no kind of wrong way in doing this, whatever works for you. So a suggestion for me that was given was to fill out the schedule on the first day of the week, so on Sunday. But you know, it doesn't hurt to start a little bit earlier. So this is kind of the blank template. So the first step is to write in your schedule everything that has a set time. So for example, your classes, your work, volunteer shifts, meetings. Also for me, I kind of color coded everything just for me to easily see everything right away. Okay, the next step is to put in my routine. So just a reminder for me to eat, to take a break. So I've got my morning routine here when I eat breakfast. There's also lunch, dinner. As in the stress management workshop, they pointed out that it was important to eat regularly, because for me, I noticed when I start to get busy, I forget when to eat. Like when I'm stressed too, I also sometimes forget that I should be eating at a certain time. So I've also set time for prayer and meditation for my own well-being. So there are parts of this day that are grayed out, which is, I just labeled it breaks. So just being realistic, there's a lot of kind of unexpected things that come up during the day. So, you know, just having time for those. And there were questions in the RSVP about having productive breaks. So some suggestions could be doing housework, taking a nap, exercise, taking time to do your hobbies. For me, I like to journal and play the piano to release stress. Another suggestion is to designate breaks to when you will check notifications. So like instead of checking them every few minutes, I would just be checking them throughout the designated breaks. So I noticed there's like a question here. So what would you recommend for people who tend to work spontaneously? Um, I think, you know, just like being specific with your tasks, like knowing what you should do like at a certain time, you know, just like saying, oh, I'll just finish this in an hour. Like it's okay to work spontaneously as long as, you know, you don't keep like working and working to the point where, you know, you forget everything like that's there that you still need to accomplish. And there's also some good answers in the chat as well. So the last step is to fill in all the blank spaces. So I've also color coded them regarding which kind of classes it should be coinciding with. So it's very easy for me to see what I should be doing every hour. And within these, I'm going to be also implementing the Pomodoro technique. So within those 5 minutes, I'd just be like, for example, stretching, drinking some water, taking a break from the screen. And due to the limited space of this kind of blank workshop, worksheet, you know, like I wasn't too specific with what has to be done. So a suggestion is to use an agenda or a separate sheet of paper to specifically break down the task and to know what you need to do. So this tool is more on organizing your time and effectively filling out the spaces in your day. So to help designate tasks, here are some task making tips. So keeping track of all your deadlines. For me, I know I still have some projects on the last week of school. And I've also, you know, I screenshotted my Canvas schedule here, and also knowing your final exam dates. So you can just check on those in your SSC. And as I mentioned before, writing out all your tasks in an agenda or a separate sheet of paper. So I'm going to just show you a couple of examples of what I did last year with writing down all my tasks. During this weekend, I'm going to be working on this for my own final exams. So this one was for math. So I took note of the final exam date. I wrote down all the topics, the number of assignments, and practice questions. So you can kind of see that here. So compared to math, I felt a bit more confident in physics. So I prioritized studying based on the course and the weightings. So since I spent most of my time studying for math, I focused more on the practice exams for physics just to see what topics I needed most to review on and to prioritize because I only had a limited amount of time. And then I made some review sheets for them, and I still did very well on this exam. And then this last one was for chemistry. These are second term courses, but you know, just to get the general idea. So for this one, there was like a lot of tools to review for this course. A challenge I had was that I had limited time. So, but this sheet, it gave me, it helped me easily identify topics from the task sheet so I could cross out what I felt I needed to complete most. So it did feel overwhelming, and it's realistic not to be able to study every single thing, but going into the exam, I knew I studied strategically and did the best I could. Are there any comments, questions? Feel free to put it in the chat. I'll give you a couple of seconds for that. Okay, so don't worry if you have more questions, we could address them in our open study space at the end. So now we're going to be continuing with the rest of this workshop.
So while you are trying to make your own study schedule based on Rosemary's advice, we would also like to provide you with some course-specific study tips regarding your first and second year classes.
So first, we're going to talk about tips for first-year classes. For us, me and Cloris, we can't believe this was 2 years ago. Okay, so for the 100 level maths, so a tip could be that we would like to share is practicing the past exams from the Maths Wiki. This website, you can find old math exam questions. There's also hints and step-by-step solutions. Another tip is to redo the questions from the web work. Sometimes I've noticed that in the exams, they tend to combine questions into one on the exam, or they sometimes change the number, change the numbers from the web work. So generalizing the equations to create step-by-step solutions is a really important tip. And another one is for the 100 level chemistry. So for all of you taking Chem 120 or any other chemistry class, do you still have the chirp? So the chirp was basically a workbook for us to use. Yes, okay, that's great. So yes, the chirp has, it's just like a great resource when studying for exams. It has a lot of tables and diagrams, which is very helpful for organizing the information. So, you know, the topics like the Vesper shapes, the 3D representations, the trends in the periodic table, and knowing when to use the formulas. Okay.
So for you to tackle 100 level biology exams, one good strategy is that because for Bio 121 and Bio 112, these are very content heavy classes. So how you can manage to prepare their exams? Well, one good way is to use the learning objectives to guide your review. I found this work really well for me when I'm preparing the Bio 112 exam. So what I usually do is to skim through the learning objectives and then go into the slides. After I review the slides, then I will go back to the learning objectives and trying to answer them so I can know which are the focus of this slide. And a good resource for you to know is that there is a free review sessions led by AM's Tutoring, Science Undergraduate Society, and LFS Undergraduate Society this week. So I believe for today, they're having the Bio 112 review session at 5:30. So right after our workshop, there will be no registration link needed, but you can check the AMS Tutoring website for the Zoom links to join. Moving on to the second year classes. Well, first I'm going to talk about the FH 200 classes. Since I'm one of the TA for this class, I have to admit that this is a very memory heavy class. So one good strategy is to plan enough time ahead for you to review. Well, when I was preparing for my final for FH 200, I actually planned 10 days ahead, and I usually assign certain number of chapters for me to do each day. And I can also show you my review sheet, which is on the right. I know it's pretty condensed with different notes, but I'm the person who will learn by writing down everything so I can memorize better. Well, you don't have to refer to my review sheet. Try to figure out your learning style and organize your review sheet based on your learning style. And for the 200 level biology classes, well, I found their finals have pretty similar questions to the problem sets and tutorials. So be sure to go over them before you have the exams. And for the Bio 200 exam, they will have the essay outline questions at the end. I know Bio 200 is such a pain, and they have the essay outline question at the end. One good way is to have that checked. Maybe you can practice the sample prompts and have that checked by your prof, TA, or your peers. Well, I have friends who actually got them checked by their TAs, and they did really well for these sections. So maybe this is one good way you can consider since you still have the time to prepare the exams. And lastly, we're going to talking about the Chem 233. This is such a pain for me when I was taking it during the summer because it has so many different mechanisms. But I found there's a really good way is to try to go over your notes and record them and draw the mechanism on a blank piece of paper without checking your notes. This is what is called active learning, and it can really help you to know the steps of the mechanism, so you can become more familiar with the mechanism questions during the exam. And as the old saying goes, practice makes perfect. Be sure to do lots of practices, especially for chemistry classes. Well, I really hope these tips can be helpful for you to prepare for your final exams, and best of luck for preparing the finals. Before we move on to the open study space, please take the time now to fill out this exit survey. If you have to go now, please fill out this survey before you go. It is quite valuable for us to know your feedback and what you have learned through today's workshop. Last but not least, we are going to open the space now for us to study together for the next, 20 minutes until 5:30 p.m. This will be the time for you to ask us any questions. Any specific or private question would be welcome. And and I see Val has sent a poll question for you to answer. So please go through these options and choose an option that works for you. So also take a note of that this open study space will not be recorded. Okay, so I can see everyone's response. So most of you would like to study now while having your own music. Okay, thank you for answering that. And we are going to stop the recording now. So